Welcome to UK News Times. My name is John J. Coover. Let's check the latest news headline. Australian frigate joins US fleet in South China Sea. US mass incarceration could add 100,000 deaths to coronavirus, told US study. US doctor fired over prioritizing science, opposing Trump's favorite hydroxychloroquine. Iran-Turkey strays preserving bilateral trade ties under coronavirus pandemic guidelines. Agreements with Israel, US completely cancelled if West Bank annexed Abbas. That was the headline. We now move on to the news in detail. But before that, there will be a request to like this video. An Australian frigate has joined 3 US warships in the disputed South China Sea near an area where a Chinese vessel has been based, raising concerns over an escalation of tensions. Australia's HMAS Parramatta frigate joined the USS America, an amphibious assault ship, the USS Bunker Hill, a guided missile cruiser, and the USS Barry, a destroyer. US and Australian military sources said on Wednesday, adding that the ships aimed to take part in a joint military exercise. During the passage exercises, the ships honed interoperability between Australian and US navies, including replenishment at sea, aviation operations, maritime maneuvers, and communications drills, Reuters reported, citing unnamed military sources. The warships arrived this week near the area where the Chinese government survey ship Hydroxychloroquine has been based, possibly conducting exploratory drilling. The ship is accompanied by a Chinese Coast Guard vessel. China reported that the Hydroxychloroquine was conducting normal activities. Nearby waters are claimed by Malaysia, which has one of its own vessels exploring for oil there. Malaysia's foreign ministry has not issued any complaints regarding the Chinese surveying. Vietnam, however, has filed a complaint with the United Nations. Hanoi has also protested China's alleged efforts to boost its presence in the disputed area. As many as 100,000 more people could die in the US from the coronavirus if jail populations across the mass incarceration addicted country are not dramatically and immediately reduced, a US study says. According to Press TV, the analysis done by the American Civil Liberties Union and academic researchers said US jails, which house men and women not yet convicted, will act as mass vectors of the outbreak. It said of those 100,000 fatalities, 23,000 are projected to succumb behind bars and 76,000 in surrounding communities as a result of inmates spreading the coronavirus upon release. When it comes to COVID-19 deaths, mass incarceration is our Achilles heel, said Odi Offer, director of the ACLU's Justice Division. America's addiction to mass incarceration is truly exceptional in the world, as no other nation incarcerates people on such a scale, which in turn has critical implications for the threat posed by such a virus outbreak, The Guardian said. The US accounts for 4% of the world's population, but 21% of its incarcerated population. Officials say the two things the recommends for Americans to fight the virus, social distancing and personal hygiene, are both impossible in jails, as American jails are overcrowded and sanitation is often rudimentary. The ACLU study said inmates who are branded with underlying symptoms such as diabetes and asthma are vulnerable to contracting the coronavirus, while incarcerated and can quickly carry it back to their communities. The study is almost certainly an undercount, as the researchers did not take into account either prisons or immigration detention centers across the US, the Guardian said. The doctor heading the federal office tasked with battling the COVID-19 pandemic says he was forced out over opposing broad use of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, which President Donald Trump has promoted as cure for the novel coronavirus. According to Press TV, Rick Bright said in a statement Wednesday that he was removed as the director of the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority after he resisted efforts to fund potentially dangerous drugs promoted by those with political connections. I believe that this transfer was in response to my insistence that the government invest the billions of dollars allocated by Congress to address the COVID-19 pandemic into safe and scientifically vetted solutions and not in drugs, vaccines, and other technologies that lack scientific merit, he said. Bright asserted that there was no scientific merit in the drugs promoted by the president as a panacea, specifically and contrary to misguided directives. I limited the broad use of chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine promoted by the administrations as panacea, but which clearly lack scientific merit, Bright said. According to a nationwide study financed by the National Institutes of Health and the University of Virginia, anti-malaria drugs have shown no benefit and even caused more deaths. Heart-rhythm problems have also been reported in 1/4 of people given the higher of 2 doses being tested in Brazil. Trump is being criticized for his administration's poor response to the pandemic, in part as hospitals on the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic will receive $10 billion from the CARES Act. The Trump administration's decision to allocate only 1/10 of the funding for hotspot areas is outrageous. New York Democrat Representative Nita Lowey said, adding that it was a blatant disregard for the massive costs undertaken by hospitals and health providers in the nation's hardest hit regions. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar has suggested that this newest wave of funding will be no more targeted. It will be a significant infusion of money for high-impact areas, Azar said during a call with reporters. Iran and Turkey have called for maintaining bilateral trade relations while sticking to the health guidelines issued to rein in a new coronavirus pandemic, which has hit the two neighbors hard. According to Press TV, in a telephone conversation with his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Wednesday, President Hassan Rouhani highlighted the Islamic Republic's precious achievements in the fight against the outbreak, saying the officials from the two neighbors should interact with each other and share their experiences in this regard. He also underlined the importance of continued Tehran-Ankara trade ties and enhanced contacts between the two countries' economic sectors while observing all sanitary protocols. Iran and Turkey have proved that they have stood together in times of hardship and difficulty, and today we should likewise help each other by forging closer cooperation, he said. Turkey has been hit by the hardest by the coronavirus in West Asia, with more than 98,670 confirmed cases and 2,376 deaths. Iran has reported almost 86,000 infections and a death toll of 5,391, while illegal US sanctions are impeding the country's battle against the highly contagious virus. Tehran has requested a $5 billion emergency loan from the International Monetary Fund to rein in COVID-19, but the US, which dominates the IMF, has blocked the loan. Elsewhere, in his comments, Rouhani referred to US sabotage attempts at the IMF as part of its pressure campaign and oppressive sanctions against the Iranian nation. Today, all countries should adopt a clear and decisive stance on the inhuman US pressures, Rouhani said. On the Syria peace efforts, he underscored the significance of three-way consultations among Iranian, Russian, and Turkish authorities to implement the agreements reached within the framework of the Astana peace process on the Syria conflict. We should all make efforts to help the people of Syria and other regional nations enjoy stability. And I hope that with the trials' hard work, we will witness full security and peace in all countries and nations in the region, he added. Erdogan, for his part, expressed his opposition to the EU sanctions against Iran and expressed hope that the international community will put up resistance in the face of American pressure. Iran and Turkey, as two friendly and brotherly countries, will pass through these difficult times through cooperation, he ensured. The Turkish president also hailed the Iranian government and nation's valuable virus fight despite the problems they are facing. Nothing that trade between the two countries should continue in accordance with health guidelines, and that officials must work toward that aim. He further urged efforts to reach ceasefire and restore peace and stability in the region. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says the Palestinian Authority's agreements with Israel and the United States will be completely cancelled if Zionist regime annexes the occupied West Bank. We have informed the relevant international parties, including the American administration and the Israel cabinet, that we will not stand handcuffed if Israel announces the annexation of any party of our land, Abbas said on Palestine TV on Wednesday. Abbas has on numerous occasions warned that the PA may cancel existing agreements with the Israeli regime if it pushes ahead with the so-called deal of the century. US President Donald Trump unveiled his self-styled plan for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict in January. The proposal, however, largely meets Israel's demands in the decades-old conflict while creating a Palestinian state with limited control over its own security and borders. Among numerous controversial terms, it designates Al-Quds as Israel's undivided capital and allows the regime to annex settlements in the occupied West Bank and the Jordan Valley. Palestinian groups have firmly rejected the joint Israeli-American initiative as further impingement upon their rights and have called for the formation of a unified stance against the Israeli occupation.